Well, his victims never forgave. We never forgot. Fast-talking property mogul John Lewington first came to our attention 7 years ago. At the time, he was dubbed the boyfriend from hell. Now he can add convicted fraudster to his rap sheet.
How does it feel to be a convicted fraudster?
It really is at the upper level of seriousness in these sorts of cases.
As far as fraudsters go, John Lewington might just be the smoothest talker of them all.
Oh, mate, I don't think I'm going to have to call the police.
That's fine, we're on public property, we're not breaking any laws here.
This confrontation was 7 years ago when a current affair first exposed his dodgy business dealings that left a trail of destruction behind.
And you're coming to me with questions?
Yeah.
That you have absolutely no right to come to me?
No, we've got every right because these people want to know where their money is, John.
Those people included Diana Ho, who had contracted Lewington's building company, Accentra, to construct a house for her. She'd paid $340,000 via a series of progress payments, but with very little progress ever completed, just footings and basic block work.
There is no way I would sign any of those progress claim forms when I can see that there is absolutely no work being done.
Why would anyone sign progress payments with no progress?
Right, so they're fraudulent, is that what you're saying?
I don't know.
Are you saying they're fraudulent?
Well, I don't know any rational person who would sign progress payments for no progress.
This is where you're making accusations now, my friend. So are these fraudulent?
Did she sign them?
I don't know, mate.
You don't know?
I didn't sign them. Did you?
Well, she's your client.
Did you?
Did she sign them?
Did you sign them?
It turns out they were fraudulent, and John Lewington was the man responsible. Queensland Police stepped in around 6 months after that story aired, charging him with 3 counts of fraud.
This has been a long and complex investigation. Detectives have been working for almost 18 months to bring us to this situation where we've been able to charge Mr. Lewington.
7 years after the allegations were first aired, John Lewington is now heading into court for sentencing after pleading guilty to all charges. Hi John, Dan Nolan from A Current Affair.
Yeah.
How does it feel to be a convicted fraudster?
I'm not convicted.
Well, you've pleaded guilty to 3 counts of fraud. I think that makes you a fraudster, doesn't it? In his long legal fight, Lewington was found guilty by a jury and jailed over one of the charges in 2020, but it was overturned on appeal and sent for retrial. After already spending 22 months in jail, Lewington decided to plead guilty to the 3 fraud charges, amounting to $655,000 in losses.
Well, it's a pretty horrible case for anybody who was involved on the other end, the victims of this fraud.
Lawyer Richard Mitri explains the challenges involved in a fraud prosecution like this one.
Fraud cases are incredibly difficult for police to prove and ultimately for a case to be prosecuted. There was a lot of evidence that was needed here to prove it. It was incredibly complex and quite frankly, I'm not surprised that it took more than 7 years to get to this point.
Judge John Allen ruled that Lewington had conducted separate acts of dishonesty in multiple ways, but decided there was no good purpose to return you to prison now. He was given a head sentence of 6.5 years jail to be suspended after 22 months, which is the time he'd already served, allowing Lewington to walk free from court. Anything you'd like to say to the people that you've ripped off? Flanked by his lawyers, this smooth-talking fraudster was, perhaps for the first time in his life, lost for words. You seem to have upended an awful lot of lives, John. What would you say to any of those people? There's a lot of people who are wishing they'd never met John Lewington. What do you have to say to them? It's a far cry from his performance in our first encounter.
So I'm going to ring police, I think, because you guys are interrogating somebody. You only have a tiny bit of information.
We're on public property, John, so you go ahead and call the police because I think they probably want to catch up with you anyway, actually.
Look, remember when you said you were going to call the police on me? You thought I was committing a crime, but it seems like the police caught up with you in a fairly big way. Lewington was labelled the boyfriend from hell because among the many victims of his failed projects and company were the mothers of 2 separate ex-fiancées.
What sort of a lowlife targets their girlfriends'
I beg
mothers?
your pardon? What
Targets
you call
their
me?
girlfriends'
What kind of
mothers?
lowlife comes in here with no factual evidence?
You've got history.
One of them, Deidre Timo, blamed Lewington for several $100,000 in losses she'd incurred.
I mean, John's destroyed me. He's absolutely destroyed me, emotionally. Financially, yeah, but emotionally, he totally destroyed me.
Do you think it's fair what's happened to Mrs. Timo's life savings?
Mate, I'm not going into that because I'm telling you now, she'll probably get it back.
You were very adamant that everyone was going to get their money back, that people were going to get their money back. Did anyone get their money back, John? Nobody? Deidre Timo's complaint to police did not result in any charges.
There is a need to prove any allegation beyond reasonable doubt, and if a prosecutor is not comfortable they can do that, they won't pick up the case and run with it. So it may be that these people who have made these complaints will never see anything done about them.
Since his release from jail, 40-year-old Lewington has found employment once again in the construction industry. Accentra, the company he was a former director of, went into liquidation with $1 million in losses. What are you going to do in the future now? Are you going to give up on trying to run any companies? Seem to have failed fairly spectacularly in the past.
Anybody who has a history not only of failed businesses but now 3 counts of fraud is somebody you'd want to think very, very carefully about doing business with.
I look forward to the day when these people get their money back. That'll be a great day, John.
All right.
We look forward to seeing it. We'll come and chat to you again then when that happens.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Please do.
Very quiet today, John, versus the last time I spoke to you. You had an answer for every question I asked. Now you're a convicted fraudster. And you've gone quiet. Well, John Lewington won't do any further time behind bars, but will have to be on his best behaviour for the next 5 years at least. His suspended sentence means if he offends again, he'll be back in jail.